And then the other thing that happened, and it was crazy, like, as soon as we hit 1,000,000 downloads, like, the floodgates opened. I was getting between 40 and 50 emails a week with
Wow.
people that wanted to be on the podcast. But the thing is we can't have everybody, and we're really particular about who comes
Yeah.
on, and that if you're going to come on the podcast, you need to have.
In today's episode of My Podcast Story, we have Gretchen Schozer, the inspiring co-host of the award-winning podcast that goes on in our heads. Gretchen is a passionate advocate for mental health and a suicide attempt survivor, using her platform to shed light on the importance of resilience and recovery. With a rich background in technology and a personal journey that intertwines vulnerability and empowerment, she has created a unique narrative that resonates deeply with listeners. At 61, Gretchen founded a company that champions personal growth and community support, proving that it's never too late to start anew. She's here to share an inspiring journey on how she built her show from the ground up and how she's using her voice to make a meaningful impact in the world. Okay,
Yep,
tell
ready.
me your name and what the name of your podcast is and what your podcast is about.
Okay, my name is Gretchen Schozer, and I am the co-host on that goes on in our heads, and that's with an exclamation point.
Wow, where did that idea come from? Where did that idea come from?
So it came from the podcast started because I was in a really dark place. I had attempted suicide on Christmas Day, 2022, and it's because I had a lot of shit going on in my head and didn't really let people know what was going on. So we wanted to create a safe space for people to tell their mental health stories, so we can help to destigmatize that.
Okay, so you basically created something you wish someone would have made for you. Yeah.
Yes.
So how long? Okay, you mentioned you attempted suicide in 2022. When did you start the podcast?
We dropped our first episode on February 14th, 2023.
Okay, 2020. That's the podcast is 2 years and counting right now.
Yeah, two years
Yeah,
and counting. Yep.
You mentioned we. Can you explain?
So I have a co-host. Her name is Dirty Skittles, and Dirty Skittles was my manager at the time when when I was getting ready to retire early. And so we came up with the idea to do this podcast together, and like we vibe. All our guests that come on say it's like sitting around the fire, just shooting the shit with their friends, and we make it a very comfortable environment.
Yeah. When you record, do you record in person or remote recording or both?
We only do remote recording because Dirty Skittles is in Marietta, Georgia, and I'm in upstate New York, and we just really haven't had a chance to do a live. We're thinking about it somewhere down the line, but life gets busy, and then you have to travel, and
Yeah, there's so many
we just do everything remote.
with having to do it in person. So many logistics. I mean, if you guys were neighbor, it would have been like easier, right? Rather than doing internet, like moving from one, like no. At the end of the day, it's going to be really hard to be consistent. I mean, remotely it gets the job done. And most times, if the audio is really good, if you're the co-host, both hosts have really good mic. Like I'm seeing that you have, like I think you're probably the first guest that is using a Shure on this podcast.
Yeah. So yeah, we both have really good mics, and we have headphones, and then occasionally we'll have guests that will come on, and I set them up in our dining room because I have an extra MacBook, an extra set of headphones, and an extra mic. Because not all guests have that, or do they have a really good internet connection. So I just set them up in our dining room, and we record everything via Zoom, but we only ever release the audio because we like to look at our guests, and because some of the questions that we ask are really hard, and if I'm looking at the guest, I can see if we've said something that has triggered them or whatever, and we can, like, at that moment, make a note to our editor so that they can take that part out.
Yeah. Oh, like you're doing everything. Why are you not publishing on YouTube yet? I mean, I get that part, right? But you mentioned that you publish only the audio, but like YouTube is like everybody's running to YouTube.
Well, the thing for us is like for me, I'm at the very end of my career where Dirty Skittles is, she still has about 20 years to work and she doesn't feel real comfortable having her picture on the internet, which I understand. Me, I just don't care. Like you either like me or you don't like me. At this point in my life, I don't care anymore. But what we do is we release the audio. We use Headliner, and Headliner releases our podcast out onto
Yeah,
YouTube. It's just a stagnant image, but we do that for two reasons. One, we have a lot of deaf listeners, so with the captioning on YouTube, they can um, they can read about what we're saying.
yeah,
So that's a huge help. And then uh, number two is we just haven't put a focus on YouTube. We are really focused on content, especially right now. Um, our our podcast is a mental health focused podcast, and the world's on fire right now. And our messaging is really important to people that are listening or any new listeners.
yeah. Now that you've explaining to me now, I perfectly understand why, you guys are not releasing the video on YouTube. I mean, if in the future, maybe 5 years or 2 years, I don't know, maybe 10 years from now, she decides to say, okay, no problem, I'm comfortable. I don't have a problem with releasing the videos. You guys already have the videos, right? So you can basically release it if you want to.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing to have just in case.
Yep, and we can do that, but, we also need to be very cognizant of our guests because a lot of our guests have never told their story to anyone, right? And if they're just talking into a mic and we release the audio, it makes it easier for them to tell their story. So it's all about
Yeah.
comfortability and making sure that your guests are well taken care of, and some of them still wanna remain anonymous. The nice thing is that, like, AI has come a long way where we can actually take parts of our podcast, throw it into an AI video generator, and it will generate that video for
Wow.
us. But, at any given time, our episodes range anywhere from 30 minutes to 50 minutes. Sometimes we have two-parters, so until that technology catches up a little bit more, we're fine with just
You
releasing the
you
audio.
mentioned that AI has gone to a point where you can generate videos. Are you doing that currently for the podcast?
I'm playing around with it.
Uh-huh.
Like I said, I'm gonna be 62 in
Wow,
a
wow,
couple of months, and,
congratulations.
I
Happy happy birthday in advance. Just yeah, happy birthday in advance. This is me sending it out.
and, the technology is there, and it's growing every day. But, I'm also trying to run a business and do the podcast, so I don't have a whole lot of time to play with those tools. I do make more and more time on the weekends to investigate new tools, find out how we can generate more content from our podcasts. Um, I use AI a lot because we are now going to start using our content to create flip books because some of the content that we have, if somebody had something tangible in their hand or something they tangible that they can read, it can get them to the right resources that they need at that point in time. So,
Yeah.
playing around with that a
Yeah, I
bit
mean,
too.
it's a good thing you mentioned that because recently I've been thinking that oftentimes when podcasters they release their episode, that's like the end of the episode. They never go back to say, okay, how can I like repurpose this episode and make it kind of because the stuff is that for the kind of content we publish is the stuff that 5 years from now is still relevant. People can still listen and get value from it. It's not like news stuff where like the next day it becomes useless. I don't want to listen to stuff that happened like last week. Like I'm not interested. What I'm talking about, give me the stuff that's happening currently. So for the education industry, I feel like podcasters they need to like do it because a lot of really good episodes from maybe 2 years, 3 years ago, and sometimes you just have to like tweak it a bit and then release it to the listeners, maybe in text, maybe a book form, whatever the medium might be. Wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah, and what I did is in Microsoft Office, I actually created like a survey that I can use, and I ask AI like 10 questions. I ask it for a two-paragraph summary of the episode, um, 5 lessons that we learned, gives me 3 journal prompts, um, any kind of quotes that were asked, um, any kind of quotes that were given in the
Wow.
episode, and then like if there's any resources. And then based on that, I can start creating flip books based off of that spreadsheet, and it makes my life so much
I
easier.
feel like you just showed me your recipe. I'm going to steal it. Well, it's not stealing if you gave it to me willingly.
I don't mind giving people like the formula that I use, and I use a ton of AI tools. The thing is just like, we're all busy,
Yeah.
and I don't have time to like go back and re-listen to the episode 800,000 times because I already listened to it 800,000 times before it gets
Yeah.
released. But like AI is like so much faster and smarter than we are. It can pick up things from our transcript. And I use other tools. I use like Cast Magic. Cast Magic is really good about giving me really solid transcripts. So it's an amazing tool. It's a little expensive, but it's an amazing tool. I use
Sorry,
Headliner.
I'm curious. Sorry to interrupt. You mentioned Cast Magic. Did you get the lifetime deal or it's the monthly payment?
Oh, I just got the lifetime
Because
deal.
I thought maybe you were paying monthly. I wanted to tell you about the lifetime deal, but that's fantastic.
Yeah, I scooped it up. It came out like a couple of weeks ago on
Yeah.
AppSumo, and picked it up, and now I'm transferring all my stuff over into the lifetime subscription one because my other subscription will end in like 4 months. It just makes it much easier, much easier. And like another tool that I use a lot is Headliner. The nice thing about Headliner is it creates audiograms for you. And I also use Descript. I use Descript a little differently than everybody else does.
Okay.
So, we get our audio back from our editor, and I throw the audio up there. Then I use the Underlord to pull out like 5 really good clips that I can use in a audiogram. And I find that Descript is a little bit better at doing that than OpenAI is. I think they maybe just train the tool a little bit better, but it makes my life so much easier because like I said, you go through a 45, 50-minute episode trying to figure out like what is that best, like that honey spot. And so Descript finds that honey spot for me, and I use that to put into Canva, create like a really nice reel, and then I put that out every Tuesday when the episode goes out.
Oh, I noticed that this script, they have really beautiful audiogram.
Yeah, like it's perfect, right? So I take out the audio, I throw it into Headliner, and with Headliner, you can upload like whatever your media is, right? So for us, our media comes from Canva. And then it does like all the captioning. It makes it super easy. And like I said, we have a lot of listeners that are deaf. And if you can include captions, even if you're an audio only podcast and you release onto onto YouTube, make sure you have those captions in there because you're losing a whole other segment of audience if you don't have that available to them.
Wow. Okay, wow, you just walked us through your workflow. You mentioned that you keep mentioning our editor. Tell us about some of the person editing. How did you I noticed that you have a full-time job. How did you get an editor, and why did you even get one in the first place?
Well, we were originally editing our own episodes, but it just got too much. And we reached out to the podcast community, and I got hooked up with this very amazing gentleman. His name is Noel Jones, and he's out of Australia. And the reason I went overseas is because the exchange rate is so much better. Editing is expensive. And when you have more than 2 people recording, you need to normalize the audio. You need to make sure everything sounds good. And what's great with us is our editor actually plays in a band, so he knows all about making sure everything sounds good, and he's got the sound equipment. So there's a couple of things you need to remember with podcasting, right? Number one is consistency. So make sure you're releasing on a consistent basis. Number two, make sure your audio sounds okay, because a lot of people will listen either while they're running or driving to work. And so if your audio is up and down and not normalized, it's really hard to listen to that. And the third one is, make sure that you have engaging information and that you're out there and just really like selling your wares. It, I hate having to sell a podcast, but I use Instagram as my platform. Yes, I tried TikTok. It's not my genre. Listen, I told y'all I'm 62. I tried it, not working.
Yeah. Okay. Instagram is Instagram working?
Instagram's working, and we also release a lot of information out onto LinkedIn because a lot of companies now are really focusing on employee mental health. And the more information that we can get out there for employers and employees, we're doing the world a huge service.
Of course. Yeah. So you're active on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and then all the normal audio platforms, which there's so many that usually we just call the big two, Spotify and Apple. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I love the strategy, honestly, and I also love the fact that you're hiring from outside the US, so it makes it cheaper, and it's also how do I explain now? It's cheaper, but it's a fair salary for the person you're hiring, because then over there it's way higher in terms of what, compared to if you're hiring someone from your own end. Wow. Okay. You started the
Yeah.
podcast because out of you wanted to like create something that wasn't there when you needed it. And so I guess now the question will be, how's the podcast doing in regards to the original concept and purpose you had of helping people? How's it doing?
So it's funny that you asked that, because Dirty Skittles and I were just talking about this the other day. So when we originally started the podcast, we're like, oh, you know what? We'll do like 3 episodes. Nobody's going to listen to us. We're just a bunch of fools. And it was just really a way for us to communicate, right?
Yeah.
When after everything that happened on Christmas Day, I opened up to social media and let them know what was going on, because I am a true extrovert and an empath, and nobody knew how depressed I was. Also, when I was going through all this mental messiness, I couldn't find a resource to help me out. And so, like, my 2 healers are sharing my journey and laughter. And that's where Dirty Skittles came in. Like, every day before work, we would call each other and laugh about stuff you should probably never, ever, ever laugh about. But one day she called in the middle of the day, and we were laughing about something. And she's like, hey, we should do a podcast. So we released our first episode on February 14th, 2023. And the reason I did that was I had buried my mom in 1997 on Valentine's Day, and I really wanted to change the trajectory of that day. So, like I said, we didn't think anybody was going to listen to us, right? That was in February. Come April, we'd already had 10,000 downloads. And then fast forward to September of 2024, we won 2 awards. We won the People's Choice Award, the Podcast People's Choice Award for health. And we also won the Women in Podcasting for mental health. And then fast forward to December 17th of 2024, and we had already amassed 1 million downloads. And as of today, we are at 1.6 million downloads.
Wow. What amazes me is the fact that even if those of course, you started the podcast because you felt that, okay, we're going to help people. But it was more like, we're already doing this thing. We might as well just put it out there in the world, just in case anybody happens to stumble on it and it gets to help them. But we're already doing this thing. So it's more like 2 friends calling and just checking up each other, laughing and, kind of like chatting. And they're like, okay, let's just record it and then put it in the world. And if someone finds it good, if not, we'll keep doing what we are doing. And 1.6 million. Wow.
And the thing is, just like, we have amazing guests, right? We have people that have written books. We've had speakers. We have, just normal everyday people. Because, every time somebody shares their story, that unlocks somebody else's prison. Because, there's so much stigma around mental health that we're helping people to open those doors and really get the help that they need. We've had at least 10 people reach out to us and tell us that we saved their life that day, right? Because now they have a resource that they didn't know that was available to them. We've been able to give voice to the 988 crisis line here in the United States, also in Canada. We've been able to give voice to people that are neurodivergent, that are bipolar, that immune, people that have immune diseases. We give voice to that. And, a lot of the resources that people would typically go to, and I'm going to say over the last 5 months, have now been disappearing off of the internet. But there's other resources that people don't know about. And so we provide them that service through the podcast. And the great thing about the podcast is there's no borders, right? Whereas with a radio show or a TV show, that's all like there's geographical barriers to that. But once you put it out onto the internet through a podcast, there's no geographic barriers because there's not just mental health problems here in the United States. There's mental health problems around the world. And we've had guests from Australia, we've had guests from Ireland, we've had guests from the UK, Canada, all over the world. And right now we are physically booked with guests until April of 2026.
Ooh, let's talk about that. That's see, there are a lot of podcasters, they're struggling to get guests. And for me, what surprises me is the fact that, the topic you guys are discussing is a very sensitive stuff. It's not like, oh, come, let's chat about pickleball, right? It's one of those things that people would have to start sharing some of the things that they've bottled inside, some of the things that, like, I'm going to take this to my grave. And they start sharing these things. And you have guests, and you not just have guests, you have guests down to April 2020. And I know that before maybe September, November, that April will shift into the future. It will become maybe November of 2020. Like, guests will keep coming. So how do you get guests? That's the question. Let me just start with that.
In the beginning, it was just our friends and family, right? And then I had seen on the internet, it was called radioguest.com. Anyways, I put a free ad out there. And then that opened up the floodgates. Like, I've never had so many emails in a week than I had at that point. But I was also working a full-time job and trying to figure out who was going to be a good guest and who wasn't. And then what we shifted to was we changed our model up, and now we do pre-interviews with our guests. Because we only record one Saturday a month, and we record 6 to 7 episodes on that Saturday.
Ooh.
So I want to, our time is valuable.
Wait. Did you say 67 or 6 to 7?
6 to 7. We do 6 to 7 episodes one Saturday a month. You say it so
fast. Even me, I was like, how do you do it? I thought I had 67.
There's no way we're going to do 67.
Please show me. Is there something I'm missing out here? That kind of conversation is not a conversation you rush. It's something that, you take time. 6 to 7, that's a lot. That's, okay, how often do you release episodes?
That's a lot. So we record one Saturday a month, and that's 6 to 7 episodes. And then those typically come out 6 to 8 weeks after we record.
That's one every week.
Because we one every week. So we release every Tuesday morning at 3 a.m. Because, like I said, we have listeners around the world. By delivering that episode at 3 o'clock in the morning, it means the people in the UK everybody gets that
Tuesday.
at a little earlier time. And then the other thing that happened, and it was crazy. Like, as soon as we hit 1 million downloads, the floodgates opened. I was getting between 40 and 50 emails a week with people that wanted to be on the podcast. But the thing is we can't have everybody, and we're really particular about who comes on, and that if you're going to come on the podcast, you need to have a mental health journey that you can share, where people can actually get help from. For us, I'm really particular because, time is money. And so I do typically the pre-interviews on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and I only limited it to 2 a day.
That's about 6 for those 3 days.
And then about 6. And then, we're getting into the summer months, so I'm probably not going to do any more pre-interviews until October because, like I said, we are booked, like so booked. But how do people get guests? Well, there's a couple of ways that people can get guests. Podmatch is amazing.
Yeah, that's how we met.
Like, there's another
Matchmaker.
Like I said, Matchmaker is good, but the radioguest.com is like another great way to get guests. You can put in a free ad, but I'm going to warn y'all now. Like if you do that, be prepared to get like thousands of emails from people that just want to sell their wares, right? And because we're a mental health podcast, there have been a few people I had to turn away, right? Because there's like 2 things we never talk about on the podcast: religion and politics. And so we're really like, the more you get into podcasting, the more you do it, and the more guests you have, you start to know your own tone and what you're looking for. But and also remember that when you're out there podcasting, that it's not about just selling your wares. It's about telling your stories and helping people, or, putting your best voice forward. And I'm going to tell you, it's really hard to tell people no, but sometimes you have to grow a backbone. You never thought you would say that during podcasting, but sometimes you have to grow a backbone. But I'm telling you, if you use radioguest.com, just be prepared for the onslaught of emails. Like every publisher in town will be reaching out to you.
I need to ask, the ad you put on Radio Guest, do you still have access to it? I'd love to see what it looks like. Like the write-up itself.
Yeah, I can send it to you.
Is this something you can pull up right now?
Yeah, I can send it to you.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. If it's something you can pull up, I'd love to for you to share it on the screen. Because this goes live on YouTube too. So those that are watching on YouTube, they can see it. But those that are listening on Spotify and Apple, I'll do the comment, what do you call it now? Is it commentation or commenting? I don't know what the word is, but I'll basically see everything that I can see so that you're not left behind.
So what you can do is, let me share this with you on my screen here. 1 second, let me pull this down. Hold, please. I have 80,000 windows open. Oh my goodness. All right. Give me a second here. Minimize all these guys down here. Okay. So let me share my screen with you. Share and screen and allow. And I think it's window, this one. All right. So here's where you go. You go to findradioguest.com, right? And then you come down here. It's a free service.
I don't know why, but I just see a blank screen.
Weird,
yeah, I can see it now. I can see it now. Yeah. Findradioguest.com.
You can see it now. So it's the podcast and radio show producer's best friend. Okay. So you come out here, right? And you can show bookers and producers can submit their guest requests for free. Yeah. And then you can also come down here and you can publicize yourself. And then here's all the free listing of guests that are podcasts that are looking for guests. And remember, this is a free service. When you all get 80,000 emails, just remember, it feels like it's 80,000. It feels like it's 80,000 emails.
Okay. That's a lot.
But you can see in here that, you can find all these people, all these podcasts that are looking for guests.
Yeah. Can you
and a typical ad?
Do you have access to your exact ad that's that flooded the gate?
I don't know if I still have it.
But I'm just curious to see what it looks like for yours. But I see this
for mine. So it shows you what the show name is, what the description, who the host is, how to book, their booking URL, booking email, their audience size, the show format, and then you get to put in your social media information.
It's pretty simple.
So this is another really very simple, a really great way to get guests. Just remember, that there's a ton of publishers out here. There's a ton of agencies out here. So you may get people contacting you that are not really what your show's about. So you have to get super selective. But I will say, from radioguest.com, radioguestlist.com, I did get a ton of really good guests in the beginning.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. Your podcast grew like from 0 to over, I think, 1.6 million downloads. Would you say, is there anything particular in that's kind of like contributed to that growth? Like you say, oh, this is what led to a podcast growing this fast.
I think it's the subject matter that we talk about. It's our consistency. And, our podcast has a ripple effect. One person listens and they tell 5 people, and 5 people listen and they tell 5 more people. We cover all topics related to mental health, including suicide. There's people looking for resources, looking for help. They probably tried everything. But we've had several people tell us that, once they got on our podcast, it was very cathartic for them because they'd never shared that story before. And so we gave them a platform to share their story. And we've had so many people reach out and thank us because they didn't realize that there was a certain resource available to for their condition, or that they didn't realize that, they could go to this website, or what the crisis hotline numbers are all around the world. There's like so many, we provide that information for people.
Yeah.
And we're just like super chill. Like our show is never scripted. It's 100% authentic. And we just make our guests really feel at ease. And that's part of podcasting, is making sure your guests feel at ease. And if you ask them a hard question and they don't know how to answer it, like, don't make them feel bad that they can't answer that question. Show up to your podcast like your authentic self.
Yeah.
For us, we do cuss. We do cuss sometimes on the podcast. I've been better about it. but not super better. But I've been better about not swearing as much. But I will say, like, if you do get into podcasting, just remember, like, you're never gonna make $1 bazillion, all right? Because and for us, our mission was never about making money. Our mission was to normalize how we talk about mental health. Fortunately for us, we were picked up by a podcast network in November. We got picked up by Believe, which is on the Simplecast platform. And so we do now make some money. I mean, it's not a ton of money.
Yeah.
And
it keeps the lights on.
For like all the software. Keeps the lights on, pays for all the software that I use for the podcast. Because I think the other thing that people don't realize is that it does cost money to podcast. Yeah. Depending on, because you need if you're not going to do your own editing, you have to pay an editor. You have to have a platform where you can record. You have to have a hosting platform where your episodes live. And then, your own personal time. Time is money. But if you're super passionate about what you do, it never feels like work. And for Dirty Skittles and I, it never feels like work. We are out there repurposing our content every day, trying to keep up with all the trends that are out there, and just really giving people information that, is sometimes really hard to find. Like, if you go out to Google and do a search on mental health, unless you are super specific about what you're looking for, you're going to get back 80,000 trillion responses that are not helpful. But on our website, we have a search functionality, so people can go and search for maybe a topic. And we're always taking, suggestions from our listeners. Like, somebody wanted us to do something on bipolar. So I went and found a guest that, was bipolar and was willing to come on and share their journey and share their resources. So, you have to do some research.
Yeah, you mentioned.
But,
you mentioned that you have a way of collecting feedback from your listeners. Like, do you have a system for that? Or if it just happens that if they send you feedback, is there a channel for collecting?
There's a couple of places they can do it. They can go out to our website and leave feedback there. We include our email address on all episodes in our show notes.
Okay.
They reach out to me on social media. That was the other thing I was going to talk
Okay.
about too,
Okay.
is your show notes. Make sure your show notes are detailed. Include what is a description of what that episode's about, because in the first 2 sentences, that's what gets pulled into Apple and to Spotify. So in those first 2 sentences, make sure you let your listeners know what they're going to listen to.
Yeah.
Then maybe if in some cases, like, what are some lessons learned in that episode? Or, introduce your guest. If you have guests, like, give information about your guests, get information about, like, where people can find them. And then the other great thing about show notes, for me, because I use Simplecast, at the bottom of our show notes, we have resources listed out for all the crisis hotline numbers out there, 988. And then we also have a section for the California wildfires. Because as a podcaster, we have sort of a responsibility to be able to share information out across the world about things that are happening at home. And so the resources that we put out there were websites where people could donate money, or, how they could help. And, some people don't think that podcasters have a responsibility to do that, but you're human, right?
Yeah.
And like for me, when I was trying to find something to help me when I was in crisis, I couldn't find the show that I was looking for. Like, I'll go back and listen to our episodes. There's 4 or 5 episodes that I play on repeat at least once a week that just remind me that I'm okay.
Yeah.
Right? Like, mental health sucks. It will drain the life out of you. But for your listeners, though, like, if you want to get out there and podcast, do it, man, because there's 4.3 million 4.3, I think it's 4.3 million different podcasts out there. There's a ton of competition, but it should never be a competition. What it should be is, if you want to go out there and talk about pickleball, or wrestling rhinos, or visiting all the zoos, or something about Disney, do it. Because, like, you and your own expertise may help somebody else out that wants to learn more about pickleball or wrestling rhinos. Don't do that. Wrestling rhinos bad. But, things that help you. And it's an eye-opening experience for us.
Yeah. This, like, earlier on, I was asking that, how did you guess? And so this is just me talking about the podcasting process and all that. Sometimes the struggles we are having is because we don't know how. Like, it's a knowledge problem. I'll give an example. There's someone who might listen to this episode and they'll be struggling with getting guests, and they don't know that this platform where you can guest. Oh, I never knew that. Wow. So you mean all this while I'm struggling, trying to, like, email people, stalk people on social media, and get their details to message them, and then they get to hear the stories. Wow. And then the thing, sometimes it's not about the knowledge or information. It's just the knowing that thing is possible, and then you get to do your own search and hunt. Because now people hear that, so you can find a site where people can find podcasts, and then they start doing radio guests, and then they start searching sites like radio guests, and then they see other sites, and then they find other sites, and then, but just knowing that the possibility is there gets them to, like, start chasing it. If not, they are like, this is the way it is. It's terrible. There's no better way. We just have to do it like this. And it also comes down to mental health too. Sometimes people don't know that there is something else. There's a better way. They just, like, they are going. I know the thing is, it's a lonely journey.
It is
Yeah,
a very
very
lonely
lonely.
thing. Something else that I was thinking about too is, like, if you're trying to attract celebrities to your podcast, or musicians, and you get, like, thousands of, like, thank you but no thank you emails, keep trying. Like, just keep sending those emails out. Eventually they're going to get tired of you and want to come on. But, we've had the same issue. Like, there's a couple of celebrities that we'd love to get on the podcast. Thankfully for us, we have a PR firm that's helping us out a little
Okay.
bit. They can open doors that I have no keys to. But, do it for the fun of doing the podcast. Like, don't turn it into a business. Turn it into something that makes your heart happy, and just be consistent with what you do, because consistency is really, really key. Like, be consistent.
Yeah, yeah. Another question, you from what you've said so far, it has become clear that the podcast has reached a lot of persons, and you guys are still growing, right? This is just 2 years. I'm trying to, like, I just cannot imagine what would happen in 5 years from now, 10 years from now. That would be really amazing, honestly. Um, I want you to talk about the benefits the podcast has had on you. I want you to really talk about that aspect. I mean, you've touched about it when you made the answers to other questions, but I want you to, like, really talk the benefits the podcast has had on you and your co-host. But majorly on you.
It's funny that you ask. So for us, it's like free therapy, right? We both still see our therapist on a regular
Yeah,
basis, but the guests that come on, like, open our eyes to new things that we can try. Um, Personally, for me, I've grown mentally, right? Like, leaps and bounds. Like, I'm still going to therapy. I go to therapy, twice a month still. I will probably for the rest of my life. But I feel seen and I feel validated. And same with Dirty Skittles. Like, we all go around in our own little heads of things that are going on in our life, but we think that we're the only ones that are suffering. But we bring these guests on, and they've suffered on their own. But just talking about it, the more we talk about mental health, the easier it becomes and the less stigma there is on it. And for us, like, we become a lot more vulnerable than I was probably 2-3 years ago. And if you'd asked us 5 years ago if the podcast was in the wheelhouse, it was not. But neither was the mental health breakdown. And I think that sometimes we have to go through stuff in life to see what our true purpose is. And so we took a very painful, deeply painful period in my life, and we turned it into purpose. And if you've had an epiphany like that in your life and where you really want to make a change, this is the platform to do that.
yeah,
Because it's easy to plug in a microphone and just start talking.
yeah. For me, one of the things I love so much about your story is the fact that you decided. Okay, it's not like you decided. You guys were so so the podcast came, like, the podcast was already existing, but it wasn't the podcast. So you guys just rebranded and repackaged it. So it wasn't like, oh, we had to create a podcast. You guys were already chatting and and having conversations. That you made a podcast for you 4 5 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, and you made that podcast that you would want to listen to, the podcast that you would, like, say, "Wow, I can't believe someone is doing this. Thank you so much." Well, and so the kind of content that when you see the person, you're like, "Wow, you're so happy to see the person. You're so glad that the person took the step, or was courageous enough to speak out there and put something out." And a lot of persons, they are struggling. Oh, I don't know what to start a podcast, and you can learn from her. You can start a podcast for the 5 years, 5 years. What would be that thing you would wish you own? And you could start a podcast. You did mention in passing that you joined a network, and that, for me, I'm curious about that, because now I know that you said that it's not exactly millions or gazillions of dollars, but it keeps the lights on, and everything is moving on, is smoothly. It's paying for a couple of things, which is really nice, because usually most podcasters, not all podcast, and most, especially the kind of podcast you're doing, it's not exactly a business podcast.
Yeah. What was funny about the network is they had reached out to me a couple of times, and the Believe Network is mainly sports, but they were branching out. And so, like, I got 3 or 4 emails from them, and I just kind of blew it off. And then they kept emailing me more frequently, so I finally just had a meeting with them. And they had been watching our show grow for 7 months before they reached out to
Wow.
us. And so they had seen the trajectory of where we started and where we had been come the end of it was the beginning of October 2024. So, like, I had talked to my co-host, and I had talked to our editor, and we all came to the conclusion that it was a good deal, right? Because we're gonna make some good money, and we still had control over our content.
Yeah.
So those are a couple things you need to think about when you join a network: is do you still have control over your content? Are they going to tell you what you can and cannot record?
Yeah.
They didn't do that with us. And we have the ability to leave the network at any
Anytime.
time, but like they're good to us. They reach out to me every now and then, and I being with the network, that also increased our listenership, right? They have over, I think it's 800 shows under their network.
Wow.
So, now
Cross.
now they have those 800 shows, right?
Yeah.
So we're cross promoting. And so that to me was kind of cool, right? And they had introduced me to a couple of their other podcasters that were under their network because, I wanted to interview people that had been with that network and wanted to see if they were happy and things like that. So for us, I mean, it was perfect because they automatically put the ads in for us. Okay. I know host read ads are like the thing, but here's the problem with that. Like if it's not something you're used to doing, it takes you 8,700 tries to get it right. So when we were not under a podcast network, we had somebody that wanted to be a sponsor. So we had tried to do like a 1-minute ad. For the love of God, it took us like 87 tries, and we could never get it to a minute. Right? It was like a minute 30 seconds, and I was like, you know what? We're done.
Yeah.
Like y'all get a minute and 30 seconds of this ad because we were laughing so hard when you're doing it.
Yeah.
So what's great about the network is like we don't have to do host read ads now, which is fine with us. But those are those options, right? You can get host read ads. You can reach out to friends and family. Maybe they have a business that they want to advertise on your podcast, right? Do that. You can use OpenAI or ChatGPT. Be like, okay, I get this many downloads per show. Like, how much can I sell ad space for? And for us, we also have a newsletter. So we have a newsletter that goes out the day before our episode releases. So I have the ability to put ads in that.
Yeah.
When you're bringing guests on, you really, really, really want to highlight your guests, right? They're taking time out of their day to be on your podcast. So you want to show them as much love as possible, right? Whether that's in your show notes, whether that's in your content that you're putting out onto social media, whether that's the content you put into your blog posts or a newsletter. Really show your guests love, because that they're experts in their own fields. And in our case, it's our guests are experts in their life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow. You mentioned the newsletter. I'm curious, like how many subscribers do you have?
So we started with 5. And now we're up to about 400.
Wow, that's about the number that I have for my own newsletter. Wow, what are the chances? Wow, give me 400 or 400,000. Let me just so that before I start comparing myself.
Only
Okay,
400.
okay.
But we also include like we have a podcast reflection worksheet that we attach with our newsletter, because one of the things that we had a lot of people ask us for was a way for them to go back and reflect on what they listened to. So now we provide them with a PDF of questions, like journal prompts, that they can go back out and like fill in about any episode that we've done.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, I mean, yeah. In a couple of time now, probably maybe 1,000, 2,000, and the fact that people are doing reflections, that's really genius. And with Cast Magic, I'm guessing with Cast Magic, thank God I remember the question. I was about asking, but then I asked, with Cast Magic, that 10-step prompt you told me about, you added it to Cast. Yeah.
Yep.
So now you don't have to like do it every time again and again and again. For that's really that's
yeah. It like the tools like Cast Magic, game changer.
Yeah.
Canva, game changer. Headliner, game changer. ChatGPT, game changer, because nobody has time for that anymore. Okay. It saves me literally 7 to 10 hours a
Wow.
week.
Imagine you're paying someone for each of those hours.
Nope. Pay myself.
Yeah. I'm glad that you're working with this network, and I'm glad that it's not those kind of rigid dictatorship network where they're like, you can't do this, you can't do this, right? You can do whatever you want to do,
Yeah.
and you get to they get to support you, and you get to grow too, which is very. But you mentioned earlier on that when they first started to you were kind of love. So what exactly like just on your in the first time?
So the first time they emailed me, I was like, I went and looked at their network and I was like, this is all sports. There's like no mental health here. And I flagged it and I never went back to it. A couple of weeks later, same thing. They're like, yeah, we really want to talk to you. We've been watching your show. Flagged it. Everyone went back and reread it. Like by the fourth time, I started to feel bad because these people had been reaching out to me. I was like, you know what? At least they deserve a conversation.
Yeah.
And what was great about it is that they answered all my questions.
Wow.
And I wasn't sure what questions to ask. And so I asked ChatGPT. I'm like, we have a network that's interested in picking us up. What questions should we ask them? And, because I've been using OpenAI now for 18 months,
Wow.
almost 2 years. And I pay for my subscription. It knows a lot about the podcast, right? And so it came back with a list of 8 questions for me to ask them. The only thing that they didn't have is, sometimes when you change hosts, you can carry your numbers from one platform to another. So they did not have that. But what I had to do is I had to go into Podbean because that was our original hosting company, and I downloaded the numbers, right? And then what I do now is I just take that number and add it to what our total is now to figure out how many downloads we have. So those are things to make sure of, right? If download numbers are important to you, make sure you ask those questions. If you swear on your podcast, ask them if it's okay if you swear. Some networks don't want you swearing. Ask them if you have control of your content. If they want to take a piece of your content, think hard about it. And then also find out what their payout schedule is, right? How much do you think that you'll actually get paid? And for us, we were blown away because we didn't expect anything, right? We never got into it for the money. But when we got a big check, I was like,
wow.
Okay, this works.
Okay. Say, wow, I'm rich.
Yeah.
That feeling.
There's platforms out there that will help you with monetization. So Spreaker will help you with monetization, right? Lisbon used to. I think Captivate is looking into that right now. But Spreaker's really good. Spreaker's expensive, but if you want to make money on your podcast, like with the Believe Network, they automatically put those ads in for you. The only thing I have to do for Believe is I need to let them know where our breakpoints are, and I have my editor tell me what those breakpoints are, so I don't have to guess, because guessing is hard.
Yeah. Wow, thank you so much, Gretchen. It's been fun chatting with you, and
it was an honor to be here, and I could give a master class on podcasting.
Maybe one of these days would invite you for a master class, and then you have your everything, and then you start showing up step by step, and probably maybe we will make it a live stream such that viewers can ask questions and say, oh, you said this, what do you mean by this, can you clarify that? And then we could just go on and on. For me, usually you talked about pre-interview. That's the thing about me is that I tend to use this opportunity to have a conversation with the guest, and then when I have a conversation with the guest, I know the guest that I would love to have back on the show again. so I just keep that list, and then there are some that they are good. It's not like they're terrible guests; they are good guests. But I'm like, nah, we just did not connect. they're good. They're great persons, but it's just that there's no chemistry there. Like, and thank you.
Yeah, I would love to give a master class. Just, like maybe we could do something on Cast Magic or through OpenAI, just, using prompts to make things so much easier.
Yeah, thank you for that. You mentioned your birthday. Which date is that exactly, so that I can send my.
July 27th.
Oh, that's my. Oh, so we're celebrating birthday in the same month.
That's your birth.
Yeah, mine is
Yeah.
on the second.
Listen, I'm a Leo through and through.
What?
You're the
Yeah,
second, so you're a Cancer.
yeah. Wow, that's nice. Okay. Thank you so much. I would once this episode goes live, I would reach out to you about the masterclass you promised us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And just let me know so I can get everything ready, and like you said, we could do a live.
Yeah.
I have no problems doing that.
I mean, you're using the show every say like oh, what else? Like you are like the elite of podcasters. Yeah, and you sound really, really great. Thanks to the show MV7. Well, yeah, it's been fun chatting with you.
You're very
Yeah,
welcome.
before I forget,
It's been
where can listeners learn more about you? And then can you like say the name of your podcast again, and the things and the website, the things you want to like, so they can go check the
sure.
stuff.
So the name of the podcast is That Goes On in Our Heads, and it's spelled SH exclamation point T. Or you can reach out to our website, and it's goesoninourheads.net.
Oh, okay. So you guys cut out the very important part.
Yeah, well, because like the Google and Apple police won't let you use that in a website name. So
That's what happens with what they call them again, moderators and it's all right.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they can find all our episodes out there, any kind of resources. They can look at all our reviews, and you can learn more about us.
They can also find you on social media, right? Instagram too.
Yeah. For Instagram, it's grex _ Dirty Skittles.
Okay. Then they are you guys are on.
Yep, same thing.
Okay.
It's grex _ Dirty Skittles.
Just I know the episode is kind of like done, but out of curiosity, the LinkedIn, is it a company LinkedIn page or just your page?
We have we have a company page for That Goes On Our Heads, and then we have a page just for us. So we have G-Rex and Dirty Skittles page, and we're employees for That Goes On Our Head.
Yeah. Wow, that's brilliant. A lot of bulbs have been turning on in my head, and I've had some ideas, and I'll implement them. And if anything works out, send you an email and say, oh yeah, thank you. You sent me that stuff so date, and now I'm doing it. I'm crushing it. Thank you very much for coming on.
You're very welcome, and it was such an honor to be on.
That's it for today's episode of my podcast story. I am Wisdom Okonkwo, and I hope this conversation sparked new ideas and gave you a deeper look into the heart of podcasting. If you've loved this episode, consider supporting the show by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/wisdomhq. Every bit helps keep the stories going. And hey, don't forget to follow, rate, and share this podcast with another podcaster or creator who would find it helpful. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.